How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Taeguk Warriors podcast. I am so excited as we hit 2024. We got a great episode on hand for you as we preview the 2023 Asian Cup taking place in Qatar. Just a quick little housekeeping note. We're going to keep the Takeover Warriors podcast as it is on Apple and Spotify, but this podcast will also be part of a video. And we're also going to we're going to rebrand our YouTube channel. It's going to be called BibimBallers. Shout out to Jason for coming up with that creative nickname. And we'll try to post a lot of stuff as we ramp up to the Asian Cup and beyond. So looking forward to all that. My name's Albert, and today we're joined by three very special guests to break down the Asian Cup. And I guess it just makes sense to introduce Mr. Michael Welch, who's back after a long layoff. Mike, how you doing?
I'm good. Glad to be back, guys. Good to be with you guys.
Chang-ho calling in from Seoul. How's the weather over there in Asia?
Yeah, it's not as cold as it usually is at this time of year. Thank you, global warming. But yeah, we're doing all right here. Thank you for inviting me back. I'm glad you enjoyed what I had to say last time. I'm really looking forward to talking about this one as well. Looking forward to the competition. So I'm excited to share my thoughts with you guys today as well.
Yeah, we got two Arsenal fans in Chang-ho and Mike, and last but not least, our resident Spurs fan, Jason, calling in from Canada. How you doing, bud?
Very, very good. I'm very excited to be back. I had a wonderful time last time with you and Jang Albert, and then of course doing another pod with Mike again. Very, very excited. So, Asian Cup around the corner. Let's see what our boys can do.
Yeah, and with that, let's just get straight into it, gentlemen. So the 2023 Asian Cup is finally here. It's going to take place in Qatar again, which is the same place, obviously, where the World Cup was held. Just for people who don't know, the Asian Cup is basically the European Championships of Asia, or the AFCON, happens every 4 years. The roster for the South Korean team was released last week. And what we're going to do here is just go down through each position and break it down for you guys.
I can do the keepers.
All right, Jace.
No surprises here. Kim Sung-gyu, who will likely start for us in net, and then backing him up is Choi Yeon-woo and Son Bong-gun.
Yeah. Gentlemen, I don't think we really have any gripes with the keeper list.
No, very expected. It's a continuation of what Bento was building. I think there was like a young keeper in there for the European when we played Wales and Saudi Arabia in Europe. Kim Jong-un, I think, was brought up. Mm-hmm. But, that's when we have a fourth goalkeeper. I think these three are perfectly fine selections.
No real surprises. Kim Sung-gyu, from what we understand, is having a great season in Saudi Arabia. There were some highlight reels that were being shared recently of how he's been doing. So that's good to see. Perhaps he's not the best goalkeeper you've ever had, but he's all right. He'll do it for us, and he's the best we have at the moment. So I'm pretty happy with that.
I mean, I just heard that he's actually having a really good season there. I mean, he's obviously going up against a lot of imported, really big name strikers these days. Ronaldo, Sadio Mane, Karim Benzema. So he does get a lot of really good practice in these days, actually.
But at this point, I think we're still in that kind of dead phase where we're waiting for a young goalie to really take the reins. And I think for this tournament, it'll be fine if Kim Sung-gyu starts. I'm not so sure about 3 years from now, but I think that's a problem for later. And since we have a new manager, I think Klinsmann is just going with a guy he can trust who is familiar playing with our current back line. And now speaking of our back line, we got some big names in this team. Chang-ho, why don't you take the center backs and the full backs for us?
Right, so obviously Kim Min-jae is our leading centre back. He's going to be the cornerstone. He's going to be the foundation that we build our defence around. Other names, they were pretty much what we expected. Kim Young-won as well. And then the fullback positions has always been an issue for us. That is probably the biggest area of concern. Lee Gi-jae left back with Kim Jin-soo, and also Kim Tae-wan and Seol Young-woo on the right side, the right fullbacks. It's, as we said, this is probably the area that we can probably have the biggest debate because we do have concerns. We've talked about our reservations with Lee Gi-jae before, but Klinsmann has pretty much said in his press conference when he announced the squad that Lee Gi-jae is his guy. Similar with Kim Sung-gyu, is I think it's just about stability. I think it's just about he trusts him for now. He trusts him after seeing him in training. It seems with the national team, he says he's given uh, everything that Klinsmann wanted so far. But he has hinted in the future that perhaps he is looking for other left backs in the future, that he's looking for other younger players to come through. But for now, he's put his trust in Lee Gi-jae. But there might be a little bit of competition with Kim Ji-soo as well. Otherwise, for the right back, he's also hinted that Seo Young-woo is his main guy as well. So that's probably going to line up for the back line.
Yeah, so this is something we've known a lot about the South Korean team is that lots of explosive quality going forward, but lots of issues in the back. I think everyone knows what Kim Min-jae has done at Napoli and at Bayern Munich, but I think the other three next to him are going to be a problem, including the right-sided center back, which in this case is most likely going to be Chung Seung-hyun from Ulsan Hyundai, who I don't think is a very good option, and I don't know why Jurgen Klinsmann has been starting him so frequently. So at this point, I'm not sure which I'm more worried about. I think I'm equally worried about the fullbacks and also the right-sided center back. And I'm interested to hear Mike's take about the selections that Klinsmann made, and more specifically the left back and the right-sided center back, because I think we all know Seo Young was going to play it on the right side as the right back.
I mean, for the left back, I would still stay with Kim Jin-soo. I think he's just the most reliable, but then it also depends. I think that Hwang Yi-chan has a good partnership with EKJ's play, knowing that he'll be on the overlap and knowing that like his very reliable move is sort of cutting back in and then whipping in across and looking for Cho Gyu-sung or Son Heung-min if he's arriving into the box. Right-sided center back is a bit more of a problem. I don't really see that much that I like from Jung Seung-yeon. I think he's a little bit slow. He sometimes makes bad decisions. But then Kim Ju-sung and Kim Ji-soo are both very inexperienced center backs when they become paired with Kim Min-jae. And then we've also seen that Klinsmann has not shown very much faith in Kim Yong-kwon. So it just seems like we're kind of feeling around for this partner for Kim Min-jae, but we haven't really found a good one just yet. And I guess Klinsmann's plan is to sort of look and see what Kim Ji-soo and Kim Ju-sung can offer him, because they are both very young guys. But it's hard to say, like, this tournament's probably going to be Jung Seung-hyun, and Kim Min-jae is going to have a lot of work to make sure that he sort of mops up for whatever mistakes that Jung Seung-hyun makes.
Yeah, similar to what Chang-ho and Mike said, there's definitely concerns where Kim Min-jae's partner is going to be. We talked about this before in the last pod as well, why potentially Kim Young-kwon is being phased out, whether it's, a transition to a younger team. And also I brought up the possibility that Kim Min-jae wants to be the top guy in that defense and really command that back forward, really shout at everyone, tell everyone where they have to be. And maybe he can't do that with Kim Young-kwon because Kim Young-kwon is the veteran and he's more comfortable playing with Chung Seung-yeon as his partner. I think Chung Seung-yeon is fine. I think he's not great, but I don't think he will cost us an Asian Cup. Knock on wood. But also, I think if Lee Gi-jae continues to start, I am quite confident that we will not be able to win the Asian Cup. For a couple of reasons, he is quite terrible defensively. He is going to get exposed as we go up to the quarters. Maybe the quarters, definitely the semis and the finals. Again, the likes of Kubo, Mitoma running at him for Japan. The Australians, the Iranians are going to cook him. And also, I don't like the fit of him overlapping Hwang Yi-chan because I think Hwang Yi-chan needs to have a lot of space out wide where he can take on defenders 1v1 and then he can cut in or, keep it on the flank and then cross it inside. And I think Kim Ji-soo is a great fit for that, where Kim Ji-soo underlaps a lot and he likes to come more centrally. And that gives a lot of space for Hwang Yi-chan to work out wide. And I also think he is a marginally better defender than Ije and also has the experience in major tournaments. So I really hope that Klinsmann and then to to maybe a greater extent, Chaduri wakes up and stops playing Ije. Um, and if anything, even Sol Young on the left and Kim Tae-won on the right, just anything other than Ije on the left, who honestly should not even be going to this tournament.
Jang-ho, I see you smiling there. What do you think of Jason's thoughts?
I mean, I'm getting to the point where I kind of feel bad for Igije because uh, we criticize him so much. It is an issue. We don't quite understand. There was, I think, someone saying online recently how perhaps Klinsmann just likes his crossing and the kind of opportunities that he might give Cho Gi-sung. But even the crossing, I think we all have our doubts about how good he is. I think most of us prefer Kim Jin-soo's more attacking qualities as well. It's very clear at the moment that Klinsmann is going to go with the Ikije unless something drastic happens within the next couple of days. There's the friendly coming up as well, so perhaps he'll experiment, but I wouldn't hold my breath. Look at the rest of the back line as well. As Mike mentioned, there was a surprise selection perhaps with Kim Ji-soo, the centre back for Brentford's reserve team. Klinsmann said he picked Kim because it's a 26-man roster this time rather than 23, and he wanted to give some younger prospects the chance to experience this sort of competition as well. It's great to hear, but that probably means he's very unlikely to get game time. He's just kind of feeling him out for now. He's just bringing him along for the ride rather than, I think, seriously considering him as the first choice centre back in any of the games.
Yeah, I think one thing, I'm going to let Mike jump on here very quickly too. I think in terms of the fullbacks, guys, it's really a pick your poison thing because I don't know if you guys remember the 2015 Asian Cup. I'd hate to say this, Kim Jin-soo was probably solely responsible, along with Sonny, for that last goal scored by Australia in the final. Just defensively, you cannot trust him or Igije. I understand the flack that Igije gets, and it's warranted, but Kim Jin-soo is just as bad, if not worse, defensively. If you also comb through the highlights and look very carefully at the goals he conceded in the World Cup, especially against Ghana and Brazil, Kim Jin-soo got absolutely murdered on that left side. Whenever he had specifically a very direct player running against him, like Rafinha or one of Ghana's wingers, it was, as Shaq says, barbecue chicken. So I think maybe you'll start Igije to start the tournament, but then depending on how bad either one of them mess up, you just basically pray that they don't mess up and you maybe switch them out for every mistake they make. And I know that's a terrible way of treating your fullbacks, but that's how porous they are defensively. And honestly, I don't see any alternatives right now in the K-League that Klinsmann could have chosen.
I mean, the only other alternative that Klinsmann could have chosen would be if he'd brought Hwang Jae-won from the Asian Games squad. And I mean, I get it that it's the Asian Games, but at that tournament, Hwang Jae-won was one of our best fullbacks and also one of the best attacking players of that squad. So let's say you pencil him in as your right back and take out Igije, and then you allow Seoryung to now be a left back in this squad. That could work really well. They'd both be really young. Neither Seoryung or Hwang Jae-won are known to be like lockdown defenders, but they're young, they're active, and they would work really hard. And it's possible that they could give a little bit more defensively than Igije and Kim Jin-soo. So that's just another idea. But the caveat is that Hwang Jae-won has only performed in the Asian Games, and that's not necessarily the same thing as a senior level tournament like this one. And so we know that Kim Jin-soo has that experience. So there's sort of like a give and take there, but Hwang Jae-won would have been a really interesting option to have seen.
Mike mentioned that Hwang Jae-won did play at the Asian Games, but it's never really played for the senior team. The interesting thing is that Jurgen Klinsmann did pick one midfielder in this 26-man roster that played at the Asian Games, but also does not have much experience with the senior team. And I'll let Mike talk about who that is. And let's move on to the midfielders.
Okay, let's go through them. We've got Moon Sun-min from Jeonbuk Hyundai. We have Park Young-woo, who plays for Al Ain FC. Park Jin-sup, the aforementioned player from the Asian Games squad, who essentially earned a promotion to the national team based on his strong play at the Asian Games. Son Heung-min from Tottenham. Yang Hyun-jun from Celtic. Lee Kang-in from Paris Saint-Germain. Lee Sun-min from Gwangju FC. We've got Lee Jae-sung from FC Mainz. Jung Woo-young from VfB Stuttgart. Hong Hyun-suk from Hent, Hwang In-bum from Red Star Belgrade. I think they're called Crvena Zvezda in Serbian. And then we've got Hwang Yi-chan from Wolverhampton Wanderers. I mean, this is a really interesting midfield. There are a lot of players that I like being included in here, but there's definitely a couple that I don't like being included in here. I want to save my take on this guy for later. So I'm not going to address Moon Sun-min just yet. Park Young-woo, I think that if we want a CDM, we could have brought Paek Sung-ho, because the thing that's like really interesting about Paek Sung-ho is that he had a really good partnership with Park Jin-suk. So that would have been really cool to see him get this opportunity to play at an international tournament like this. I don't necessarily think Park Young-woo is bad. I just think that he's very solid, very baseline, very standard for a central midfielder, central defensive midfielder. And then also, I'm kind of confused about what Lee Sun-min does. I'm not really sure what his best position is or how he's going to be utilized. And then I'm also a little bit concerned about Jung Young from Stuttgart basically being a bench player or garbage time player for his club team right now. Those are kind of my biggest concerns. And then later down the line, when we get to Moon Sun-min, I'll tell you guys what I think about him.
I mean, I do agree that I would have loved to have seen Paek Sung-woo be included here as well, even just to give a chance to show Klinsmann what he can do, even if he wasn't going to be a first choice. So yeah, it's a shame about it's a shame that he wasn't picked. Park Young-woo, I mean, again, the defensive midfield position is another weak area of the team. That and our fullbacks and a right centre back. That's the main biggest issues of the team. The rest of the team, I think we're pretty confident. But yeah, it's a question mark. Again, there's no solutions right now, I think, other than just picking with perhaps a reliable choice, such as Park Young-woo. So I think that's what we're going to go with. We'll see what happens. Let's stick with that for now, and then before we talk about more of the attacking guys as well.
Yeah, I'll quickly go through. I mean, all 12 of them and give my quick, my thoughts on what I think of them. Moon Sun-min, trash and useless. do not know why.
Did you steal Mike's thunder a bit there?
I might have, Mike.
Well, don't worry, it's better than that.
But he is so bad and he is so useless. He's a waste of a roster spot.
I thought you were gonna say he's a waste of a human. I was like, oh no.
Waste of
that wouldn't be wrong
spot.
either.
Do not know why he's going to the Asian Cup. Park Young-woo, bad, but probably the best we have. It's a real shame that we don't have Son Jun-ho. I think that could be honestly the difference between winning and losing an Asian Cup. Because Son Jun-ho, I mean, he's really good. Like, I'm not saying he's like world class or anything, but out of the central defensive midfielders that we have, he is by far levels above everyone else. Park Jin-suk, I like. I don't know if he's ready to step in yet, but I do think that he is very deserving of a spot, especially what he did at the Asian Games, leading that young team to the gold medal. Sunny, world class. Lee Kang-in, world class. Hwang Yi-chan, world class. Hwang In-bum definitely needs to be there. Lee Jae-sung definitely needs to be there. Hong Hyun-suk, absolutely. He's coming back from, I think it was a stress fracture, but he's playing quite regularly for Hent now, and he was one of the best players at the Asian Games, so he absolutely needs to be part of the squad. Chung Woo-young, I do get Mike's point. It's concerning the fact that he's not getting minutes for Stuttgart, who have been a good team this year, but I still think that he showed enough to at least deserve a roster spot. Who haven't I touched on? Yang Hyun-jun actually is one of my favorite young players because I think that he offers a profile that we really need. He's a guy that a winger that's fearless and not afraid to take on defender 1v1, and he also has the ability to beat his man and create space that way. And looking at this roster, Sunny can't take his man 1v1. Lee Kang-in definitely can, but he's going to play on the right. Hwang Yi-chan is more about speed and power than technicality. So really, we do need a player like Yang Yeon-jun, and he's definitely one for the future as well. And then finally, to touch on Lee, he's a good player. He's a good player. He's one of the core players at Gwangju, where Lee Jong-yo, who's playing Deserby ball in the K League, and he's a very very important. I think he plays defensively. I think he plays as the CDM. But the problem is, I think Klinsmann doesn't know where to play him, or knows where to play him and just refuses to. Because I think the first game that he subbed on, he played as the number 10, which just doesn't fit him. And, he hasn't really had much of a chance to impress. Maybe he gets a run for the friendlies against Iraq, but he's not a bad player, guys. He's not a bad player, and he's playing in a very very good Gwangju team, and he's like technically good enough to not be a liability in central midfield. So those are just my quick thoughts. Maybe I rambled on, but yeah, Moon Sun-min sucks.
It's all right. And Mike's waiting in the weeds. Mr. Welch, what do you have to say? What do you want to say, bud?
All right, I'll tell you what I think about Moon Sun-min. Moon Sun-min, like, it really baffles me how this guy keeps getting national team call-ups. And so I was like thinking about it. I was like, why does this guy keep getting national team call-ups? Like the one thing that I think is like perhaps he's like some sort of chaebol or like distant relative of a chaebol, or one of the Hyundai people that work at the KFA is distantly related to him, and it's like favoritism. Because the thing is, like, when you think about any sort of high level international match that he's played in, he has never had a good performance. For example, 2018 World Cup, when he came out against Mexico, he looked absolutely lost. It was literally like the guy would like dribble into traffic and lose the ball and just like look very like sad about what has happened to him in life. And it's never really gotten better. I've never seen him actually play well for the national team. So I just don't know why he keeps getting picked. And the thing that's interesting is like he was never ever picked by Paolo Bento, right? Never made an appearance in that guy's team because that guy had no interest in hearing anything about what the KFA people were telling him to do and who to pick. Paolo Bento basically made his picks and he was like, these are the 20 to 30 guys that I like. Moon Sun-min was never on that list. But lo and behold, we're back to Jurgen Klinsmann. He's got a bunch of KFA guys around him, and this guy's back again. I just don't get it. There is nothing about his game that is good enough. He's not fast enough. He's not good enough of a dribbler. He doesn't have any vision as a passer, and he's a really, really terrible finisher in terms of scoring goals. Just doesn't make sense to me.
Obviously, it is a big mystery why he gets chosen, but he won't play. You won't get him minutes.
Are you sure? He's been subbed on in the last few friendlies, if I'm not mistaken, for like a good 10-15 minutes.
I mean, what do you think, Jason? I mean, do you think he'll get much game time? Because even with Klinsmann, he likes to stick to his core group of players, and those last few minutes in the last friendlies, they were essentially dead rubbers. They were friendlies, and they were even the World Cup qualifiers. We were winning like 5-0, 3-0 at the time.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, to address Mike's bomb, I don't think the conspiracy goes that deep. Those are purely Mike's own thoughts. There has to be like, I do think that there's someone in the coaching setup that really likes Moon Sun-min and sees value in what he brings, whether that's Klinsmann or Chaduri, who has a big role in player selection. So there definitely is something there that keeps linking Moon Sun-min back to the KFA. Maybe he's a chemistry guy. Maybe everyone loves him. And for an international, for a tournament like this, you need chemistry guys. You need guys that are going to keep everyone positive, everyone upbeat. Maybe that's it. We're grasping at straws, but definitely not the chaebol route that Mike took. Sorry, Mike. And then to answer your question, Jang-ho, I think that I think you'll get minutes in the group stage, but they'll be garbage minutes.
Yeah. So before we move on about Moon Sun-min, I do want to say something that PJ, Namu, all those old guys would really love to hear me say, is that the vibes of Moon Sun-min is those dances, his just his camaraderie, his energy. I think that, those types of things are good in training. I think that's something that he does bring. So I think he probably would be a really likable guy in the locker room. But agreeing with Jason, this guy should see 5 to 10 minutes max in the group stage, and then he should be sitting on the bench cheering everybody on when it really matters in the knockout stages for sure.
Okay, gentlemen, let's round out the roster and look at the forwards. I'll take this one. It's pretty quick. Just two strikers that we're bringing to the Asian Cup. Firstly, we got Cho Gyu-sung, who is plying his trade in the Danish league. And then we have Oh Hyung-gyu at Celtic FC. Mr. Klinsmann decided only to take two strikers. And for those who don't know, before we recorded the pod, Norwich City striker Hwang Lee-jo was indefinitely banned from the Korean national team due to off-the-field issues. So he will not be participating at this Asian Cup. Guys, I think at this point, whether we agree or not, we know that Cho Gyu-sung is starting and Oh Hyung-gyu is going to be first man off the bench, right?
Yeah, I think, honestly, it's Cho Gyu-sung and Oh Hyung-gyu, but I think it extends to Sonny and Hwang Hee-chan. Because I think Hwang Hee-chan right now for Wolverhampton, he's playing the striker position, and he's playing really, really well. Same with Sonny. He's actually struggling a lot on the left wing in Ange Postecoglou's system. Because Sonny's not really a technical player. He's a great finisher. He's, the speed is still there. And, the runs that he makes, it's world class. But can he beat a man 1v1? No, not really. That's why I think Klinsmann is trying to play him in the number 10 position for Korea. But I do think that, honestly, as we get further along in the tournament, I do think that we have to put Sonny up top and Cho Gyu-sung has to go to the bench because, Cho Gyu-sung is maybe the better option in the group stages and maybe even the quarterfinals when we're playing against a low block and we want the crosses into him. He either heads it into the goal or he drops it off and someone else finishes that. But when we're going against the likes of Australia, Iran, Japan, the guys that won't play a low block against us, maybe Iran will. I do think that it's more valuable to have Sonny running in behind and have an extra midfielder so that we can really control the game. It looks like two strikers or two forwards, but in reality, it's 3 or 4 for us.
It's an interesting idea, taking Cho Gyu-sung off for the later games, for some of the tougher opponents, and have Sonny up top. I feel Sonny would get frustrated, though, with that. I think he would feel isolated, and he wants, especially with the national team, he always wants to do more. So he wants to be at the heart of the action. So he wants to be where they make the difference. So I have a doubt whether that would be the way they go. I think from everything that Klinsmann has hinted so far, Cho Gyu-sung is his main striker, and it will be for most of the games, I think. He's pretty much said it in his presser recently when he announced the squad that Cho Gyu-sung is his main striker. Steve Han, the football writer that we all know, he recently questioned on social media whether making such a statement was a wise choice and that it could make him complacent and perhaps demoralize his competition for the position as well. I would respectfully disagree and say that hopefully, if anything, this should give him a boost in confidence. And we all know how important confidence is for a striker. There are many strikers who fail when they try too hard. And hopefully with this reassurance, hopefully knowing that he's his main guy, Cho will be more relaxed and just let the kind of goals flow.
I think to sort of like build upon what Jang-ho was saying about Steve Han's claim, I think the thing that's probably good about Cho Gyu-sung is that he has had a lot of praise come his way in the last year. At the end of 2022, he was essentially like the sensation of the World Cup. The entire world was sort of fangirling about how hot he was. He got instantly way more famous than he'd ever been. And that didn't really like go to his head. He didn't really change or become, the type of guy that doesn't pay attention to football as much anymore or didn't put all of his all into his training. He made a really smart decision when he decided how he was going to move to Europe. He didn't take a lower tier league option, like the championship, something like that. He actually went to, a league where he felt like, okay, I'm going to be the starter every single week, and the club is signing me because they would like me to be their star striker, their starting striker. So it seems like he does have a really good head on his shoulders. And so that confidence boost could be all that he needs. His form for the national team has been really good, and it's just looking like he's actually striking up a really decent partnership with Kang-in. It feels like those guys do, have these like hand signals motions to each other where they really have some chemistry going, where Jo Gi-sung is able to motion to Kang-in like, this is what my run is going to be, put it there for me, and he's able to get some goals. So I think it's a valid point, but hopefully just the sort of attitude and mentality that Jo Gi-sung has shown us in the past year with this meteoric rise, he'll be able to handle that. And then also it will be the right motivating factor for Oh Hyung-gu to just bring his all whenever he gets to come off the bench. I think that Oh Hyung-gu is likely going to get 10, 15, 20 minutes on a couple of the games. If he's able to make a good impact, then he could impress Jurgen Klinsmann enough to warrant a start for the next game. So it could be the right thing to say to motivate both those guys in the right way.
Just to wrap up the roster, maybe call me an old school traditionalist, and because I grew up watching guys like Miroslav Klose play in the World Cup, but in international football, especially when you're going to play against the low block, you need a battering ram. You need a guy to lob balls to who can head down headers, who can head down balls, and feed guys coming in late into the box. And I think that while maybe Jason is right that Son Heung-min could play as the number 9 when we play against a higher pressing team later in the competition, I think considering how weak our opponents in the group stage are supposed to be, I have no problem starting Cho Gi-sung as basically that big, tall tower. And then hopefully maybe as the tournament progresses, seeing if we can maybe play a smaller player as the 9. But I think you've seen it time and time again with other national teams that have better players than ours, how much they struggle without a real number 9. You can look at the likes of Germany, Spain. Lots of countries don't seem to have an actual 9, and it's been hurting them in these competitions. And I think Cho Gi-sung is also a very underrated presser. Physically, he's very fit, I think, for a tall guy. He takes care of his body. He runs very well. And I think he's the perfect fit for the system now. But I could totally see Oh Hyung-gu being the starter in 3 years in the World Cup in North America because I really do like his potential long term. And we're going to move on to another little segment that I'll let Jason introduce.
Yeah, I just thought that we go through, each of our best 11 in terms of, let's say it's the Asian Cup final. We made it to the finals, and we're Klinsmann for the day. Who are we gonna put out against? Let's say we're facing Japan. Let's make it tasty. I'll start us off. In net, I'm gonna go Kim Seung-kyu. Left back, Kim Jin-soo. Left center back, Kim Min-jae. Right center back, Chung Seung-yeon. Right back, So Ryung-woo. I'm going to play a 4-2-3-1. The 2 defensive midfielders, I'm going to go Hwang In-bum for sure. Don't want to put Park Young-woo in there, but I have to. So I'll put Park Young-woo in there. If he doesn't play well or if he has a bad start to the tournament, then Park Jin-sub goes in for him. Because I do really like Park Jin-sub. And then the 3 on the left, it's going to be Hwang Hee-chan. In the middle, it's going to be Lee Jae-sung. On the right, it's going to be Lee Kang-in. And then up top, it's going to be Sunny. Because like I mentioned, in the finals, against Japan, against whoever it is that's going to come up, we really need stability in the midfield. And the work rate of Lee Jae-sung and just the experience that he has, the class that he has, you can't replace that. And while I do love Sunny, he just doesn't bring the same amount of midfield presence in terms of balance and stability. And I think really in the finals, that little thing can make the difference. So that's my best 11.
Okay. I would probably do Kim Seung-kyu as our goalkeeper. Left back, Kim Jin-soo. Left center back, Kim Min-jae. For his partner, I honestly still think that Kim Young-won is still the better choice right now. Just think he's a veteran defender, more experienced, and more comfortable being paired with Kim Min-jae at this point. So that's why I pick him. And then for right back, I'll go with Kim Young-kwon's club teammate Seo Young-woo. For a 4-2-3-1, similar to what Jason's doing, I would go with maybe Lee Jae-sung and Hwang In-bum as our defensive central midfielders. I just think that this is something that some managers should be willing to try. Even Park Jin-sup could throw, Lee Jae-sung to the bench. Me personally, I think that Lee Jae-sung's days necessarily as an attacking player at the international level might not be there anymore. I think he's perfectly fine as an attacking player in the Bundesliga, and I think Mainz has a setup that really works for him. But sometimes, like whenever I see him play in an attacking sense, he's just a little bit slow. But Jason's right. His value to the midfield is just, how much of a work rate he has in terms of just being able to chase down the guy that has the ball, make the right tackle, and then sort of come into possession really calmly and make the right pass as his first move when we regain possession. So I could see him being a central defensive midfielder, but I'm also okay with him, coming off the bench in a moment where, let's say we're winning 2-1 and we need some stability to make sure we hold that lead. For me, the three in front of those two, whether it's Park Jin-sup and Hwang In-bum or Hwang In-bum and Lee Jae-sung, the three should be on the left Hwang Hee-chan, in the center Son Heung-min, and then on the right Lee Kang-in, and then obviously our man up top. I think the best fit for what we want to do every single match is still Jo Gyu-sung. So that's how I would do it. But yeah, my biggest caveat, like change from what Jason says, is like just reimagining what kind of role we could have for Lee Jae-sung and being imaginative about seeing him as more of a defensive guy just because of how strong he is in terms of that, like whenever we see him on the international level. That's what Namu says he's best at when he watches him. So maybe we should let him do that most.
That's quite interesting. That's putting your neck out there, Michael. I highly doubt that we'll see that this time. Perhaps down the road, that is something the national team and Klinsmann might consider. But looking at the team roster, I think I'm more inclined to agree with Michael on the lineup rather than having Son Heung-min up top, have Cho Gi-sung. Jason's right. We need to be sensible when it comes to the better teams. But at the same time, I feel like we're good enough not having to react to what the opponent's doing. I think we're good enough at the moment to take the game to any of our opponents, and that we can play to our strengths rather than worrying about the opponent's strengths. So I want to see a more confident and kind of attacking lineup, and so have Cho Gi-sung up top, and then Son Heung-min behind them with Hwang Hee-chan on the left and Lee Kwang-in on the right. Perhaps instead of Lee Jae-sung, I would put Park Yong-woo, just because he is more of just a traditional defensive midfielder. We just need someone who can do the job for now. I think Lee Jae-sung would be a risk. So yeah, I'm essentially putting my trust in Klinsmann for now.
Yeah, I think in terms of the spine of this team, even if we're not in Klinsmann's shoes, we know about 8 or 9 of the starting 11 is set, right? So basically we know for sure, guys, just for our listeners who don't know, there are going to be a few surefire starters, and I'll name them off. Kim Seung-gyu is going to start in net no matter what. Kim Min-jae is going to start as a left-sided center back. And at this point, I think it's fair to say Chung Seung-yeon is starting as the RCB in the first game no matter what. With Seo Young-woo on the right side. Remains to be seen who's playing as the left back. Either it's Kim Jin-soo or Lee Ki-jae. One of the two will start. And in the midfield, I think if he continues to do what he's been doing, we're going to see Park Yong-woo playing with Hwang In-bum together. Whether that's a double pivot or whether that's a hybrid midfield or one of the two step in between the two center backs. Either way, those two guys will be there. And then the front three, we already know Hwang Hee-chan on the left, Son Heung-min in the middle, Lee Kang-in on the right, and Cho Gyu-sung up top. Now, if it was me making the roster or making the lineup for the starting for the final against Japan, I'd play a 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1 hybrid, as in when we're out of possession, we'll defend with the 4-4-2 block, and then when we have possession, it'll be more of a 4-2-3-1. Gentlemen, the only outlier I would have is if I was the coach, I would work on this in training. I would start Kim Young-kwon with Kim Min-jae just for the experience. And I believe in Kim Young-kwan having a few more legs left in him just to last this month, I think. And I would start Park Jin-sup in central midfield as the CDM because that's how little faith I have in Park Young-woo. Not only do I not like the guy personally for some of the racist stuff he said on social media, I think he literally is what we call a toolbox K-League player. He's just a good K-League Korean player who will get absolutely exposed against the better teams. If you compare him to even Japan's Endo, it's not even a comparison. I mean, Endo is like one of the most underrated players in the world, showing his quality right now. We just don't have that at all. And I know it's crazy because Park Jin-sup doesn't have a lot of time with the national team, but what he's shown in high pressure situations, especially at the Asian Games, I would probably play him as the CDM if time allowed. I'm going to give Kijay some love. I'll give him a chance to start the first game, but if he makes a mistake, then it's Shinzu.
All right, lads. And then for the final segment of the podcast, let's each go through the roster and then go through who's going to be our most important player, and then who do you envision will be our breakout player for this tournament.
I think that the two most important players in terms of offensive output are likely to be Kang-in and Heung-min. Those are the two guys that are going to be the most important players. They're on really great form right now, and I think Kang-in is going to be providing a couple assists, maybe even scoring 1 or 2 goals. And then also I would think that Heung-min would probably score 4 or 5 goals, something like that, right? In terms of breakout player, I think that there's 2 possibilities for me in terms of who could be a breakout player. I think the first one could be Park Jin-sup as a central defensive midfielder. If somehow Park Young-woo is benched and then Park Jin-sup comes into the starting lineup and has a really great tournament, that could be a really good breakout for him, where he solidifies himself as someone that we're going to look at as our central defensive midfielder for the next couple of years. Obviously, I think that Klinsmann and the whole KFA staff will be looking somewhere in the K-League or in the youth ranks of Europe to find the next one, right? That's going to be, in their early 20s right now. But Park Jin-sup is, 27. He's in the prime of his career. He could have a breakout. And then my other candidate is actually Hong Yan-suk. I could see that guy coming off the bench in a match where, nothing's really happening. It's still 0-0. And just having some sort of energy and some sort of vision that's a little bit different than what everybody else is bringing, and being able to somehow unlock a defense and create a goal or even score one himself.
Yeah, for the most important players, obviously there's Heung-min. I think Kang-in is going to be more important, though. We saw in the recent World Cup qualifiers how much he is helping the team, helping Heung-min, especially unlock defenses, teams with low blocks. How he can has that creative spark at the moment to raise the national team level up a notch. But those are perhaps obvious. I guess Kim Min-jae is an obvious one as well, but I do want to highlight how important he is for the team. If we can do anything at this competition, it's because Kim Min-jae is going to be the rock at the back. He is going to sweep up most of the dangers. He's going to be so important, especially because there are going to be times when our other defenders are exposed. His pace and his awareness, he's going to snuff out chances. He might not even get that much recognition for what he does because he does it so effortlessly. But I think he's going to be so important for our team. And we definitely need to celebrate it every time we can. Breakout players, I think maybe Oh Hyung-gyu could perhaps have a bit of a breakout as well, especially if we're struggling to find goals and Cho Yu-sung is taken off and Oh Hyung-gyu is his replacement. He might bang a couple of goals, important goals for Korea as well. I think Park Jin-sub as well. I agree with you guys. We do want a better prospect in central midfield defense. So maybe he can step up. That would be great to see as well.
I think I agree with both Mike and Jang-ho, but for the sake of variety, I'll choose a couple different players. I think for most important player, it's got to be Hwang In-bum. Just the connection between the defense and the forwards. I keep preaching the midfield balance, but I think it's just going to be so important for him to control the tempo of the game. He's a great passer too. His work rate's unbelievable. I really, really like Hwang In-bom, and also just the mindset that he brings to the national team, the commitment. If we didn't have superstars like Son Heung-min, Kim Min-jae, and even Lee Kang-in, I think he's just perfect captain material. And I think Albert mentioned Endo for Japan, who now plays for Liverpool, and I think that Hwang In-bom is our Endo. Obviously maybe not as good as Endo, but just in terms of importance and bringing the leadership in the middle of the pitch, I think he needs to have a great tournament for us to play well. Especially when Chang-ho and Mike mentioned before, when a guy like Pik Sung-ho isn't there, who's a similar profile to Hwang In-bom. Breakout player, you guys know that from the very, very beginning, I've always been a big Seo Ryung-woo fan, and I think that he needs to also have a big tournament at right back. And maybe similarly to Cho Gi-sung, he's going to get a lot of those the fans. He's a cute guy, great at football, and hopefully that he breaks out for us in a big way in this tournament.
Hwang In-bom needs a better agent, man, and get him to a better team and a better league.
He really does.
His career path has just been so many question marks. Such a shame.
He went from Korea to Russia to Greece.
He went to MLS first, didn't he? Went from Korea to MLS. Right, and then MLS, Russia.
Yes. And then now he's in Serbia. So, I mean, those aren't bad leagues per se, but I 100% agree with you, Jang-ho. He's better than that. At the very least, I think he's good enough to play for a mid-table Bundesliga club. And, maybe if he was at a Bundesliga club at this point in his career, let's say he was at a Stuttgart, maybe he catches the eyes of scouts, and he's linked with move to the Prem. But yeah, you're absolutely right. He's a much, much better player than what his career path has been so far.
Yeah, and for me, I think a lot of you guys already talked about or mentioned the important players, right? I'm pretty sure someone said Kim Min-jae, Hwang In-bom, Lee Kang-in, Son Heung-min. I'm going to go a little unconventional just because, other people have already taken kind of my guesses. I'm going to say Kim Seung-gyu. And the reason I'm going to say Kim Seung-gyu is because, yes, we all know how important Kim Min-jae is to the defense. We all know how important Son Heung-min and Lee Kang-in are to the attack. But I think the fact is, no matter how much we worry, we're going to give up chances in the latter part of the competition just because our fullbacks are so weak. And I think when it's going to come down to Kim Seung-gyu making a save that he normally doesn't make to keep the game close for us to be able to squeeze past the likes of an Australia or potentially a Japan in the final. But I recall in the 2015 Asian Cup final against Australia, which we lost 2-1 in extra time, the first Australian goal that was scored outside of the box, to me, I don't want to rag on our goalie then, Kim Jin-hyun, a little too much, but it was savable. It probably should have been stopped. That probably shouldn't go in. Same with the second goal as well, which he spills into the middle of the box. I think there are some moments with Korean keepers that they have moments of brilliance in maybe the World Cup, but maybe at times in an Asian Cup they've come up short when we really needed them. And I think this will really be Kim Seung-gyu's last chance to cement his legacy as one of the better keepers to have suited up for the national team. For a breakout player, I was going to say Oh Hyung-gyu, but Chang-ho smartly picked him. I'm going to say Yang Yeon-jun. And I think I'm going to say Yang Yeon-jun because there's a good chance he doesn't play at all. But late in a game when we need a goal, he's one of the few players that Jason said that can take on guys directly, that can dribble past players, probably one of the more technically skilled players in this entire setup. And I think that he could be a guy that comes on and does something special late in the game. I'm not going to say he's going to be one of the guys that has 5 goals in the tournament and is awarded best player, but I think he could potentially play a pivotal role here because knowing Jurgen Klinsmann and how he's managed his previous teams at World Cups, he does give guys chances, young guys chances, especially late in the game. He put on John Brooks late in the game against Ghana in 2014. He put on Julian Green against Belgium in the round of 16. So I think we'll see a Yang Yeon-jun spot appearance, and it'll be up to him to take advantage of that opportunity. All right, so just for fun, and I might edit this out. I'll let each of you guys go. I don't know if I'll keep it, but who do we beat in the final, and how do we beat them? Just if you imagine like a Hollywood script. I'll let Mike go first on this one.
We would want to beat Japan in the final. They're likely the most on-form Asian team right now, so that's probably the one that we would see. So I would say maybe a tight game that stays 1-1 for a long time, has the tie broken maybe in the 85th or like last 10 minutes or so, and we win 2-1. Maybe on, a Son Heung-min goal that kind of cements his legacy where he's winning his first major trophy with the national team. That would be really, really cool to see.
Hollywood ending. That's what Mike wants.
Don't we all, Albert? I mean, it's got to be a Japan-Korea final. That would be the Hollywood ending, definitely, for us, considering all the history. And yes, Son Heung-min bagging the winner would just make it amazing, especially because there'll be some Tottenham fans who are perhaps annoyed that Son has to go to the Asian Games at the moment and disrupt the season because he's the captain, he's been playing so well for them. But for Son personally, that's the one thing that he's really missing is team silverware. He's obviously won some awards individually, like Golden Boot and things like that. But the only silverware that he's gotten as a team is the Asian Games gold medal. And that's it. And that's incredible for someone who's possibly, probably the best player that's ever come out of Asia. There are still some people that say Park Ji-sung is better because of all the trophies that he's won with Manchester United. That's the one thing that Son Heung-min needs. And hopefully this competition is a way to help him get one more medal to kind of cement his legacy, as Michael said.
Yeah, for me, I think obviously I want the Japan-Korea final as well. Honestly, guys, maybe this is me expressing, my wishes. I have a feeling that Japan are going to get knocked out either in the quarters or the semis. Like, I think they're going to fly through the groups, but I think it's beneficial for us actually in a tournament like this where we have individual brilliance, where, Lee Kang-in can carry the team, dribble past 3 or 4 players, and score against a Middle East team. But whereas Japan that play very technical football, rely on sequences, rely on set plays, all it takes is an Iraq or an Iran to score first against them. And do they have the individual brilliance to make that difference in those tight games against the more physical opponents? I don't know, maybe this is my wish talking, but yeah. But to answer Albert's question, I do think that it's going to be Japan and us in the final. And I think we'll go down early and come back win in extra time.
Tournament football is a strange and unforgiving beast. Even when the cards are stacked in your favor, things can go wrong. So on that point, I just want to make one more point that every team needs a healthy dose of luck to win any competition. Hopefully the stars are aligned in our favor. So everyone listening, make sure to pray every night and send that positive energy to our boys in Qatar. But maybe not for the group stage. That should be easy enough. Save the prayers for the later stages.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the brackets, it looks like Japan is on the harder side, but if they take care of business, and I'm not saying this because I want it, it does look like things are shaping up towards a South Korea-Japan final. And my hot take prediction is that we'll go down early, Lee Kang-in free kick to tie the game in the second half, and then extra time, Lee Kang-in curls a ball into the box that's saved by the Japanese keeper. He spills it, Hwang-in-bom comes, late runner into the box, and he finishes it.
So specific.
Namu, you can't say I hate Hwang-in-bom. That's my prediction. He's going to come good right when I talk smack about him. But obviously, we'll have to see when the games unfold, guys. First game for South Korea will be played in Group E. We're going to play Bahrain on the 15th of January. Keep in mind, this is all Qatar, Asia time, so please make sure you adjust your time zones depending on where you're living. So be sure to follow us on Twitter. This Twitter handle still remains the same. It's at FSFootball_. And we'll also be posting this on our new YouTube channel, guys. Remember, it's called BibimBallers. Thank you for Jason for coming up with that. And we'll see you guys in a week or two after the first few group games to wrap up how Korea does. Gentlemen, any last words?
Thanks for hosting, Albert. Chang-ho and Mike, it was an amazing time as always. And hopefully we bring that trophy back to Korea where it belongs.
Yeah, it's been fun again. I just want to say no injuries, please, during the first couple of games. We don't really have a plan B at the moment, so please, no injuries. Klinsmann, when the game is in the bag, please take players off. Unlike the World Cup qualifiers we saw recently, yes, I don't want to see Son Heung-min get kicked in the leg again like last time on the 86th minute, and he's on the floor clutching his calf muscle or something like that. Yes, just get them off. Play it safe.
All right, guys. Well said. All right, to our fans, thank you for listening, and we'll see you guys in a week or two.